to have Tuck to just stop it during a game at spring training was like, hey, dude, appreciate what you're doing. And like, it was just, I was just saying, he came up on improv too. I was like, bro, like, we do anything for you, man. Like, you're one of the best right fielders ever. You don't need to open up the newspaper right anymore. You can be able to just tweet something out or create a video, whether it's gonna do 1 view or 1 million views. I don't care. Be able to put yourself out there. I think that's the disruption I talked about.
Hey guys, this is Pedro, and I'm here with the very first episode of Tales from Texas. I guess at this time will be Des, one of the co-founders for Apollo Media, which serves as a local Houston sports outlet that covers various teams around the city, such as the Houston Rockets, Houston Astros, Houston, Texas, and everything else that happens within that front. As such, I talked to Des about what the platform is, how the platform started, and what it's doing right now, how it's covering every team within the city of Houston, and its goals for the future. And with that said, please enjoy the interview. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Peace. First off and foremost, and so, exactly where does that name come from, Des? Because I understand that's not your actual name, right? But what's the inspiration behind that?
Yeah, this starts the interview?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Des, my last name, I'll keep that to myself, but my nickname always growing up was Desi. So it was Desi and then Des and playing college ball and stuff like that. So it was always Des. And then I was like, well, I've always gone by Des, go by Des. And then, not knowing that Apollo was going to blow up the way it was, and now everyone knows me as Des. But I've always gone by Desi or Des my entire life. And it's kind of funny when we started this couple, 3-4 years ago, not knowing that it was going to continue the way it has. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, we go by Des.
Yeah. And exactly what do you do? Just for the start of this conversation, what exactly do you do, and what is your main occupation at this moment in time?
Yeah, I'm a co-founder of Apollo Media here in Houston. It's my only job, has been my only job since we started. We launched in February of 2020, right before the world shut down, and it was kind of survive in advance with the birth of the company then. And here we are 4 years later. I mainly do baseball stuff. We have a team that covers all Houston sports, pop culture, and food and nightlife. But my bread and butter is baseball. I love it, breathe it, die by it. And so I kind of oversee those things with a pretty solid team that we built up on the baseball side.
Yeah, and as of the moment of recording, exactly how many followers does Apollo Media have across all of its platforms? Be it X, slash Twitter, YouTube, and stuff like that. At this moment in time, how much what's the general size of the platform like right now?
Yeah, I think our social media reaches at 260,000 followers, with 60 of that being on Instagram. I think 45, 42 on X, Twitter, and then 140 over on TikTok for the main accounts.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. A quite a it was a quite a I would say a tumultuous beginning to Apollo Media right before the start of the COVID pandemic, basically forcing the entire world to shut down. And yeah, I want to get into that. Exactly how difficult was because you said it was difficult, but exactly how bad was it for a startup media outlet such as you, just trying to get your feet off the ground and stuff like that?
Yeah, it was difficult, extremely tough. The idea and concept of Apollo kind of started uh, back when I was getting out of college. It was right when kind of Barstool was blowing up in the Northeast. Pat McAfee was kind of doing his own thing. You had John Boy, you had call it SB Nation, all these little pocket satellite things, and Houston really didn't have that. And so I kind of saw a gap in the marketplace, and I almost was waiting for someone to do it, and then I could just tell my friends like, "Hey, remember I had that idea," and like just kind of like have a bar story. But that was in 2017, 2019. Still no one was doing it. Houston sports was kicking ass then, right? The Rockets were really good, Texans were good, Astros were obviously had won one championship, working on some more.
Mhm.
And when we started the company, my other co-founder Josh, he goes by Josh Strohs, and I kind of approached him. He had a video go viral on Astros Twitter in 19, and he did a Family Matters video, and he
Mm.
did the Astros in a Family Matters concept, and I was like, "That is really cool. Can you teach me how to do that?" Because I was already blogging. I already started Flags Fly Forever, just a
Mm.
blog website, and I had a few guys writing. And uh, Josh tried to explain that to me, and it was just Latin. I was like, "Okay, that's not gonna work." So I was like, "Here's my idea. You want to jump on board?" And Josh was like, "Heck yeah, let's do it." And by this time, he was in Illinois. He wasn't even here in Houston. Uh, and so when we got the team together on the kind of on the back end, we went to market February 24th,
Mm.
2020. And then, like you said, the world shuts down to COVID, and it was just tough. It was just like, what are we going to do? We're going to be a sports media company. I quit my job. Uh, there's no sports. And Josh had a really, really good idea to get on Twitch. And I was like, what the heck's Twitch?
Mm.
And I was like, oh, this is Justin TV. I remember when he was doing it back when it was, he just had the
Yeah.
camera on him, and then he obviously sold. And now Twitch, people watch people play video games. And we did the Astros live stream then. We're just following game by game, season, just till we didn't know because we were just in
Yeah.
our house. We were in lockdown. And, a couple of days go by, a couple of weeks go by, a month go by, and our channel just starts growing and people are tuning in. And I'm not even playing the video game. It's just the computer playing the computer, and we're just watching the sport. And I'm kind of just emceeing. I'm just in the kind of the corner like I am right now.
Yeah.
And it just takes off. And we did like Taco Tuesday, Whiskey Wednesday, Friday Night Light Friday, and we really got to build this community before we even launched the company. So that first year of a company, I just call it year zero because we were just trapped in our home,
Mm.
um, and allowed us to be really creative on try new things out, see if that sticks. Okay, that didn't work. Let's tweak it. Okay, it worked this time. Okay, what worked, what didn't, and kind of be kind of mad scientists on that side. Um, but without the COVID lockdown, I don't think we would be where we are today without that community building. That's the bedrock and foundation of this company is community first. And I think in a post-COVID world, every content creator, every media platform, anyone that's kind of in this world with a device and you know access to the internet is community driven. And we got to build a solid foundation. And the other side too, the accelerator within that was the cheating scandal, right, with the Astros.
Yeah.
We put the shirt H Town versus everyone out, uh, and that just took off. And next thing you know, Lance is reaching out, Carlos
Mhm.
Correa is reaching out. We're getting them shirts before they go in the bubble. We're spending the only dollars we've made to supplement them to get the shirts, and we're like, oh my gosh, are they even gonna wear it? And then finally, 2 weeks in the bubble, they wear it, and it just is another accelerator that just kind of got us a little foothold in the side of the mountain.
Yeah. It was like a aligning of the stars kind of story when you talk about how Apollo started and how it started getting ground from that point on forward. Um, and of course, obviously at that moment in time, the Astros was the king of Houston sports. Sure, you had the Rockets and the Texans at that, but at that point, Texans was kind of declining at that moment in time, and then the Rockets were entering that post 2018 peak, and then going started going downhill. But how important was it for you to take that Rockets how important was it for you to take that Rockets team and serve it as your base for your media outlet? How crucial was it to just ride on that Astros momentum throughout that moment in time?
Oh, it was huge. I think baseball's been a part of my life since I was 3 years old. I played travel baseball when I was 5. Went to Tennessee at 5 years old. Like it's been my life. I played select ball, college ball. The draft didn't happen, and I knew I played with some really, really, really good players, and I'm like, I'm not that good. I know I'm not that good, and so I always knew I wanted to be somewhat in the game somehow. And so with the launch of the company at the time, the Astros being so good and the start of their golden age that we've seen sustain now freaking 9 8 9 years. Uh, baseball's always going to be the bedrock, and that's where I'm always going to be passionate about, always going to be content. But it just kind of, you kind of someday it was like this perfect moment of lining of stars of how the company launched and where the Astros were at the time, and then the Astros were villainized, and then Astro fans were villainized on the internet by all these other teams. I was like, whoa, well, what if we can somehow gather everyone together and become like this, a rock,
Mhm.
and not protect the guys, because the guys protect themselves, but on the internet, like I remember early days on the stream, people would come in and troll us, and I'd be like, "What do you want from me? Like, I'm not on the team. One, two, I'm not the guy that was banging the trash can allegedly, and three, I'm like, they're my favorite sports team. What, like, if it happened to your team, you'd be the same thing I'd be doing.
Yeah.
So it would almost be detrimental if I flip flop and condemn the Astros if because the internet wanted me to at that time. And so I was just like, look, we're here to watch the computer play the computer. We're trapped at our home. Who's your favorite sports team? And I would start diffusing the situation. And some people would troll, and I just roll with it. But a lot of the team, I mean, now we have little subsections throughout other fan bases that I call friends, whether they're Yankees or Dodgers or Mets or Cardinals, whoever it may be. And that's the cool thing about the internet too. I know the other side of the internet, you deal with the trolls and all the hate messages and all that. But the other side that's really cool that I tend to look at, I was like, oh, that's someone I never knew I'd meet if I never, did some crazy stuff and was watching computer play the computer on Twitch.
And of course, you fed into the hate because back then, I mean, even nowadays, still the hate is still there, revolving around the scandal of the team. And as a fan myself, I understand. It's never gonna go away. But how much did you fed into that sort of stigma and vitriol that was pointed towards fans like us, Astros fans, Houston fans in general, outside of the team, just because they were they're basically based in Houston or tied to Houston in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I played into it, but I would definitely lean into it.
Yeah.
Um, I'm contrarian by nature. When everyone's zigging, I'm gonna zag. It may be the wrong thing, may zag right off a cliff, and I did it. But uh, as a ball player myself, I tend to chirp a lot. I tend to give it back when I was getting that action. So that at that moment in time was like my World Series. I was like, oh, the internet's gonna chirp me. This is what I can do, and in a way where it was like not how we see trolls do, but like playing into it and giving it some life and man, it was awesome. I like
Mhm.
looking back, it was really fun. Like because there's only two ways to look at it, right? Like it was like, oh, my team did this and I can just wallow in it, or hey, my team did this and I'm gonna enjoy it because there already was a groundwork before with the Patriots, right? The Tom Brady Patriots with the Deflate Gate and Spygate, and they just kept rolling and kept winning. And I was like, look, if the Astros fall off a cliff tomorrow, can't really hang your hat on that. But
Mhm.
I think we all saw it as a fan base right here in the city. This team was really freaking good, and we saw that they would do better on the road when one of our guys, Tony Adams, did all the data that the Astros were better on the road than they were at home. And so I was like, this is going to be sustainable. Like this, they're going to keep winning, and that's just going to provide more fire for us as fans. And so I can't the guys to be able to take what they've been getting for all this time and still win,
Yeah.
and guys to come in like right just the way he carried himself here in the city, but he signed up right as a free agent after the the news
Yeah.
came out, and yet he wore it. He wore the booze, and all he did was continue to be a consummate pro. And the way he carried himself as a man, as a human being, I think that's just a testament to everyone. Everyone should do that, and obviously Altuve, who didn't do it, and yet is the face of it, and yet he wears it for everyone. And I think that's just what makes the city of Houston so great because Houston does that too, right? Like it doesn't matter what it is. You can vote one way, you could vote the other. You could be black, yellow, green, purple, red, but Houston will always protect Houston, and I think and Houston's so diverse and so beautiful that for everyone to come together when stuff happens. Look at Harvey, right? Look at all these other storms, the winter storm, all these different things. Houston will always rep Houston, and I think that's truly special. And I think the team does it, and it just fires me up.
Yeah, I can definitely feel that sentiment. that sentiment within the team, that brotherhood, echoes that to what you're doing in Apollo, and branching out into other teams. Of course, you mentioned about how um, Astros was the starting point for this outlet, but how were you able to then divert that attention to other sports and to other teams as someone who is not. I mean, sure, you must have been you must be a fan of the other teams, but not as well versed in actually you know covering these teams in particular. But so how were you able to then branch out into these other teams within the Houston spectrum?
Yeah, I think it's twofold, right? When you dive all into a startup, you have to wear many hats, but you also have a 10,000 foot view. And knowing that we wanted to be in all sports, in pop culture, in food and nightlife, and cover Houston and eventually the state as a whole, but really get our roots down, um, we had to juggle some things. So with the Astros, we had some strong roots because I'm so passionate about baseball and stuff. Rockets, I'm just a fair weather fan. People know that I will show up to the big games, but I was like, you know what? There's another me out there, for less of better words, that is so passionate about the Rockets, like how I am with the Astros. Let's find them, and we have this great basketball team now. Of content side of content creators, the Summit Bros, they absolutely kill it. They've been growing. On the football side, I'm a Cowboy fan, and I grew up because the Oilers were gone, the Texans weren't around. My dad was a Cowboy fan, so I grew up that way. We had season tickets. My mom and sister are Texan fans, so we went to season. And I'm just now a football fan now because the Cowboys have broken my heart for the last 20 something years. I'm not doing it. I'm not buying into it. And our football side of content, they had to go through 100 miles of crap because you had the Lovey Smith, and then you had the before that you had the Coley, the Lovey Smith years, the Bill O'Brien fallout, and so you just had this like Chernobyl at NRG, and these boys, Noah and Garrett, who are just my guys, were just diving headfirst into it, and I was like, that's what you need. You need that passion when the team is not good and you're still trying to put out content, and there may be 10 people that view it, but you're putting in your passion to do it. You can't teach that. And now they're getting to see their channel grow and see them grow as content creators has been special because obviously the team's very, very good now with D'Amico and CJ and all the pieces around it. And with them hosting a playoff game here this Saturday, like that fires me up because these guys were in the crap, just putting out content and content and content. And now to see them being rewarded for that, and kind of if people are now coming in, they're like, oh, it's another flash in the pan, right? Apollo struck gold. I'm like, no, like these boys were doing it when they were
Yeah.
getting 10 views. And so to see that come together is truly special because I'm a diehard sports fan. I will watch sports 24/7. But I'm also not going to be say get in the weeds of analytics on the basketball side or the football side because that'd be just it'd be kind of yucky because I know I'm not passionate, right? I'm gonna find people that are passionate and can talk about it and be about the sport. Where I can just be a fair weather fan and then I can just enjoy content from them. And so to see those guys put in the work and be rewarded for it, especially now with the Rockets too, right? The Rockets have a new coach, they have a vision. Alfred Şengün's a freaking superstar. So it's really really cool to see these guys who put in work over the last few years emerge from the shadows of the Astros content of Apollo and grow their own verticals and go because the Astros are falling back down to the pack and the other stuff are going. So it's a really fun moment to see them grow.
I will say that as a Texans fan, going through the period after the Bill O'Brien thing and the moves that he's done, I will say that those periods were the most difficult that I had to go through as a fan because at one point after that trade involving DeAndre Hopkins happened, I was like, screw this. I'm just gonna probably just not even. I'm just gonna probably block all of the Texans accounts on every social media platform. But yeah, as you said, it really has grown. It really has come a long way to the current point as it is in right now with all of the buzz surrounding Rockets, Texans, and all of that stuff, and how good they are now compared to recent years. And yeah, like what do you feel it's been the biggest struggles for you as someone who is managing the whole web of the whole outlet from your perspective? Because of course, on top of just trying to make sure each platform is doing well in its own right, you got to be managing other aspects like administrative aspects and other stuff like that. And so, what has been do you feel the biggest obstacles that you feel you had to go through as someone running Apollo?
Yeah, I think one is really early on checking the ego at the door. Where I was always in a zero sum game my entire life playing baseball. Right, there's a winner and a loser, and really early on in a content game, and people that have been with us beginning, I was very like conquer the short, conquer the short, conquer the short, and that's just kind of how I was. And I quickly realized I was like, that's not the best way to do it, right? That's not alienating people and going about it and have this bravado. And it's about growing the ecosystem. And it took me a while, and it was probably during the pandemic where I was just started grounding myself and growing up and realizing like, hey, let's grow the ecosystem because you don't want to be the big fish in a small pond, right? There's only a ceiling you can get, and let's grow the ecosystem around us and champion everyone around us because there'll be times where I'll see other content creators in the city do something really really cool. I'm like, oh wow, I didn't even think of that. That's so creative. That's so cool. Let's champion them. I was like, that's a blind spot I never knew existed, and
Mhm.
to see other people and champion them. If I didn't change that perspective, there'd be so many gaps and so many gaps in the foundation. And so that was one of the big things really early on to a leadership team that we have. We have a great checks and balances to be able to bounce things off each other, be able to have hard conversations or conversations we don't want to have, and it's hard. There's a lot of people that are doing small business, not even in the content world, this natural small business and stuff where they're the custodian, they're the marketing, they're the ad agency, they're the VP, or HR, they're the owner of it. Like you're jockeying all these hats, and uh, there's frustrations, and if you're not in it, people can see it and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I understand what you're doing." But if you're not in it, you don't really truly grasp that. And so, to be able to have other people wear those hats with you and to grow with you has been huge, just for mental health and stuff like that. And then the other side was, and the biggest, and this is the secret sauce for everyone. Yeah, on the content creation side, really early on, we were jack of all trades, masters of none. And by saying that was we were trying to be the best on Twitter, the best on Instagram, the best on YouTube, the best on TikTok, best on Facebook, all at once,
Mhm.
and our content wasn't good. It just wasn't good looking back, like because it would just water down. Every single platform would water down from what it was because we were just reposting on all, and so it was very stagnant. It was very, um, it sucked on our end because it's like, man, this is really good. Why are people interacting with
Mhm.
this? And I was like, all right, let's bring it back. And I was like, let's just focus on being the best at Twitter. Let's throw everything else on the side. And Twitter's the only thing that works right now. And we just dove headfirst into Twitter. We got to a level where I was like, all right, our levels to reach 10,000 followers on Twitter, and then we could focus on Instagram.
Mhm.
We hit that benchmark. Okay, Twitter's now on autopilot. Let's go be the best at Instagram. So we put our head down and we're like, we're focused on Instagram. I was like, let's hit that 10,000 mark. We hit that 10,000 mark. Let's go be the best at YouTube. We had a pivot within that because TikTok was blowing up. I was like, all right, let's go to TikTok. TikTok's hot in the street. Obviously, YouTube's been here forever. And then we went to TikTok, and it's easier to kind of do growth on TikTok than it is organically on the other platforms. I think just because it really early on TikTok algorithm just kept pushing you out. And we got to the level, had some viral stuff. Our pop culture side on TikTok has killed it. They have their own community within the Apollo side, which is awesome because some of the guys are just known as the pop culture guys, which is like really really cool. And they do so many other stuff with us too, but they're like the pop culture guys. And so we got to that level, and then we finally this past year circled back to YouTube and our growth in YouTube. I mean, I think we're only at 5,000 subs, but I think we started at like 1,200. So like the growth in that in a calendar year is insane. but it was like be able to focus on all that and take that. But really early on, we were just trying to be the best at everything. And unless you're like Logan Paul or Jake Paul or Ronaldo, you can't start a new account tomorrow and get millions and millions of followers. You really have to put your focus into one thing and go all in. And that was, looking back, took us about 7 months to figure that out, because it almost felt like you were juggling water and just water was falling everywhere. And you're just like, "Well, what are we doing here? We're just kind of sitting in the same spot."
Mhm. I remember early on in the conversation about how you viewed that there was a lack of a centralized media outlet in Houston that covers specifically in the city and its sports and its other aspects. Besides that, how do you view the current landscape of the Houston media, sports slash everything else outlet right now? Do you feel as if there's other outlets that have now grown in relation to Apollo? What's the current landscape like right now since you guys started?
Yeah, I think it's ever growing. I think you had a strong legacy media with the ESPN Radio 97.5, 790, 610. You had the Chronicle, but all the other independent people, all the independent voices, kind of were trying to grow in that market. And now, with everything right here in the access of your phone, you can be a content creator and go do it yourself. So I've seen over the last, shoot, I think 18 months, this place just grow. You see some creative individuals. You see a lot of people putting themselves out there, and I think that's one of the biggest things, right? Just putting yourself out there and consistency. That's how a lot of people pop up on my radar. If they're consistent, you can't teach that, right? Like I talk to a lot of people. They're like, how's Apollo? What are we doing? I was like, we're gonna win. Because I'm not gonna stop. Like just that consistent factor of always being there, always showing up and doing it, and be able to see these content creators over the last 18 months kind of do that. It's fired me up, one, but two, you could see from whether it's a TikTok channel, YouTube channel, or even on Twitter X, these people just grow. And man, it's really cool to see, because it inspires me and fires up the team, because some of those people, maybe I'll approach them and say, hey, you want to come over and join our team, and maybe we could blast you guys out. And so in that way, it's been cool over the last 18 months to see a lot of people take that jump. I think in the post-COVID world, especially with TikTok, like you can grow a channel overnight and become a content creator. Now after that, it's the consistency, it's the discipline. The original content ideas is few and far between, and it's always cool to see other people take that jump.
Yeah, and I can say from experience that as someone who does interviews and is a part of media and covers events, not specifically in the traditional sports side, but on the esports side, it's a very competitive circuit just to try to get your name out there, just to garner attention, and get traction, get likes, retweets, stuff like that, and um, and of course there's other outlets that sort of does the same kind of content as you, and in relation to that, what makes Apollo stand out from the other outlets in Houston, and not just in Houston but also the rest of the state and maybe also in the nation? What has allowed you guys to do what you do in a way that lets you guys stand out?
Yeah, I think circling back on the foundation of what Apollo is and its community, I think it's our team members. I think it's the people that have been with us from day one, or they followed us yesterday. I think to be able to do what we do and have been able to do it over this last 4 years has always been the community. I feel like there's 10,000 people that have been with us that I would drop everything and they're like, "Hey, my tires busted." I'm like, "Where are you at?" Because they've been with us. They've seen me on camera cry. They see me on camera laugh. They've seen Josh on camera cry. They've seen Josh on camera laugh. They've seen Noah and Garrett. They've seen Brian. They've seen the Summit Brothers. They've seen everyone, and uh, to be able to always pull back the curtain and just be like, hey, look, this is what we're doing, and uh, they have always been able to go to war for us, protect us, like I would for them. And I think that's our bedrock and our foundation. And I think a lot of people are doing that. And I think just in that post-COVID world, uh, content creators can build a community, whether it's a Patreon or Discord or Twitch or Kick or whatever it is. You could build a community, and I think people strive to always be part of a team or a community, and it's really cool to be able to like go to a game and someone come up like, hey, I love your stuff, and hey, what's your name? Like, thanks for obviously listening and doing our content, but tell me about you. Like, what do you do? And to start having those conversations, and whether it's at the Astros game or at Kobo's or Big City Wings or wherever we are, to have those conversations with people, just be like, that's awesome. And it's getting to the point like being up at a restaurant where I'm not doing a watch party or not doing anything, and just someone comes up like, "Hey, love that episode." I'm like, "Well, that's really cool." Like that interaction right there is really really awesome. So I think first and foremost, it will always be community, and that's this the bedrock of what we always do.
Yeah, and as a result of that, you guys have been able to create moments that to this day still surprises me and still astonishes me as to the power of content creation and how people such as us regular old people can grow to the level of just interacting with actual players from teams and official teams and stuff like that. I remember last year in 2022 during the Houston Astros playoff push, and they made it to the World Series. And I remember a John Boy made like make like a merch, promoting the Astros victory going to the World Series, or maybe it was after they won the World Series, and then Alex Bregman did a quote retweet, and he was like, "Not real people wear Apollo shirts and stuff like that." Well, first off, was that like what was your reaction to that whole situation, and also do you feel that's like your actual highlight of like interacting with players and stuff like that?
Uh, when the tweet went out, uh, it was kind of surreal. Obviously, like anyone just like that's really freaking cool, because they had just won. I think it was right after they beat the Yankees too. It was right
Yeah.
after they beat the Yankees. I was like, he should be celebrating with champagne. Like, what? He doesn't have to do that. It was just really cool for him to do that. I've been fortunate to know Alex pretty well over the last few years, and that's probably the coolest. Like having that relationship with some of the guys, but to see them kind of have your back in that moment, and thank you, John Boy, for promoting Astros gear after being the Yankees being swept. That was a little mini accelerator, another star lining up moment. But yeah, that was pretty freaking cool of Breggy to do that, because like he should be popping champagne, right? Like he should be he should be celebrating with the boys, going another winning another pennant, going another title. But yeah, I think that moment right there in itself was pretty awesome. I think another moment, uh, we've done some work with Kyle Tucker and his foundation, and we do a lot where we give obviously we champion them on the 24-hour stream. We do some stuff on the back end. To have Tuck to just stop it during a game at spring training, was like, hey dude, appreciate what you're doing. And like it was just I was just sitting. He came up on impromptu. I was like, bro, like we do anything for you, man. Like you're one of the best right fielders ever, but like what he's doing in the hospice care scene and starting foundation as a young up and coming superstar, right? Like you're taking on a lot of off field stuff by doing a foundation. Uh, that that's really cool too, right? And it's not on the internet for people to see. It's not a quote tweet. It's just someone that just wanted to say thank you, and I just want to say thank you to him. And I think that moment, just human to human, is really cool.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I also I also want to touch upon maybe I think it was also that same year in which like the live streams, and I think there was a reaction to it, but I can't remember. Maybe it was this year. Maybe it was like the Altuve walk off home run against Texas in the ALCS, but maybe it was another. I think it was maybe the Jordan home run. Maybe you guys were streaming it. I can't remember off the top of my head, but like what was your like favorite play to cover? For you while being on the job for Apollo? Like,
Yeah. The first Jordan home run against Seattle, and I to this day I think that won the World Series. And to say that because it was Game One of the ALDS, it just one took the win out of Seattle's sails because they were beating our butts that entire game. And we kept chipping away. Breggy had a late home run. The guys are chipping away, but that home run allows you to line up the rest of your rotation, and you sweep, and then you're able to set your rotation for the Yankees. And then obviously you're fresh after a sweep, and then you get really ready for the Phillies. I think that home run was the catalyst, and to be in the stadium for that moment, oh man, that was pretty freaking cool. I was actually in Mexico for Game 6 of the World Series. I missed us clinching at home. My buddy got married, and so we were. That was a really cool moment just because it was all my buddies from college, and when we won in 2017, were all together and celebrated then, fresh out of college, and then now as young adults with one of our buddies getting married, we were kind of all together. So it was kind of like a bookend to that. That was just a real cool personal level, but to see Jordan do it in person in Game 1 of the ALDS, I still can hear the roar. I mean, I lost the ball because obviously it was a day game, but they had the lights on, and I was standing in behind Crawford box. So when it leaves the infield dirt from my angle, you kind of lose it in the lights. But when you see everyone else's reactions, that ball is gone. And obviously, anyone that's been at an Astros game, some fans love to get up on just regular fly ball saying it's a home run. They always kind of dink the crowd a bit. But when you see the entire stadium stand up and it's Jordan on the plate, that ball's gone. And so to look up and finally catch that ball up on the second terrace, I was just like, holy crap. And then it was just pandemonium.
oh, for sure. Like at that moment in time, I'm a superstitious person, and I kind of made it a point when the Astros playoff games, like when the Astros play their playoff games, be it whatever year, I make it a point to not watch because I feel like if I watch, something bad might happen. And yeah, literally at that moment in time when that Jordan home run happened, I kind of was already in the mindset of just like, okay, they're gonna lose, so we just have to rebound for game two. But then again, with Seattle building that momentum, might be a little hard to win the series right then and there. But yeah, I looked up into my phone. I was eating like my dinner. I looked up, I checked the score. And literally right when I turned on the phone, a notification popped in which just said, "Jordan walk off, game over." And I was like, okay. I felt the same way. Like this set the tone, not to how you believed it might have, soared them to the World Series, but yeah, for at least one game, I was like, okay, we kind of were able to go through that kind of mess. But
Only in a
yeah,
5 game series, right? Like the ALDS, it's a crapshoot.
oh
It,
yeah,
I hate obviously the Astros have been the 7 straight ALCSs and we're spoiled. There's no, I have not I always feel the weirdest and the strangest in ALDS because in 5 games anything can happen, right? That you can just run into a buzzsaw, 3 guys pitching their butts off and win,
yeah.
or I feel like in a 7 game series, the better team will kind of always win. Baseball will find its level in a 7 game series. Um, but a 5 gamer, that scares the crap out of me. So every ALDS, I'm always, and the boys they always chirp me because I've been wrong because we always go to 7 straight ALCSs. I'm just like, we're losing. This is the year we lose this ALDS. Like, this is the year. And hopefully I'm going to always be pessimistic because I tend to work out.
They just with the result of just being an Astros fan pre 2017 and just being familiar with all of disappointment. I still have PTSD, like flashbacks to the 2015 ALDS against the Royals, and that collapse in Game 4. And I still don't remember why. I still don't know to this day why that kind of thing happened. But yeah, like, and I'm someone that has been following the team literally from '05 World Series as a little kid. Me being delusional, thinking that this is how it's going to be every year, but then that not happening, and then now to this point, as someone who has been able to cover the team, on both sides, behind the camera and also in front of the camera, and as a fan as well. What does this mean to you, just to look to see a team such as the Astros, someone that a team that we've been following for basically our whole lives to be in its golden age and just be regarded as one of the best teams in baseball, period, for a moment in time, for a large stretch of time at that.
I was always it was always heartbreak Houston growing up, right? Like something it always felt like Charlie Brown trying to kick that ball and Lucille lifting it. It just always felt like something was going to happen in all sports. And in '04, when the Astros, I thought that '04 team was actually better than the '05 World Series team, and they lose. Damon Sully gives up those home runs. Jim Edmonds does all that. Uh, game 2005, Pujols, the White Sox, all that. And then we stink. I was always jealous of teams. I was always jealous of the Yankees, the Braves, uh, the Giants, Cardinals, because those fan bases, all they knew was success. All they knew was winning at a level where you were talked about forever, almost immortality. And now that the Astros have been in this and continue to be in it, uh, I don't think my future kids and my future grandkids will believe me. I think they'll check me into a mental institution because they'll be like, "Okay, Grandpa, you made up stories of how good these teams were, right? Like 2 World Series, all these pennants. Our worst game, our worst year was losing Game 7 of the ALCS, right? Like
Yeah.
that's our worst moment of this stretch. Like to be spoiled rotten in it, and now I just can think about like the Patriot fans and the Boston Red Sox fans and those Celtics and Bruins. Like when that whole era was winning for like that decade, I couldn't imagine being a fan of that because I'd be insufferable. Because after two, I'm already insufferable. I couldn't imagine those 12 or 13 championships that area had in that time period. And so to be able, I said I always wanted three. Like give me three and I'll be happy. Like, and I still think the Astros can get one more. They only stick at two with this team and core, then so be it. But that second championship parade was so sweet because you had all these years of the chirpness of 2017, the fallout of the scandal, losing in 19 the way you did to the Nationals, losing in 21 to the Braves, and to finally get that second one and kind of get that monkey off your back. That parade was amazing, and I think being a fan of it was awesome, but being there was even sweeter. But I think going back to 2017, and I don't think this is why people will ever get why Houston fans are how we are, is because we went through shit that year. When Harvey happened, where every creek turned into a river, every river turned in the ocean, and it was just everything was underwater. People losing their homes, people passing away, um, and the team being on a pretty damn good run, and then to come back and just that was kind of all we had, right? It was the entire city once again is rallying around one thing, and to have those memories, like you could say bang bang, you can do a trash can, you could troll me. You can't take away those memories. Like my grandmother had a calendar. She wrote every single game, and she had this little blue book of every single thing. And then when they won the World Series, she signed it, and we have it framed in her house. Like those core memories, and everyone has those stories. It's just not me. Everyone in this city has a story, knows exactly where they were when we won the World Series for the very first time, what everyone went through. You can't take those memories away. And you could troll on the internet, and you could chirp, and you can bang a trash can. You just can't take away those memories. And that's what I think the bookend of both, having both of those memories, all the crap we went through, and then the validation of getting that second one as a fan base. It's just so damn sweet. And I just want one more. Just one more parade on Louisiana Street with the boys. I'll be happy.
As a matter of fact, I actually have. I don't know. I still don't know why I was able to. I decided to do it, but for 2017 specifically, I made it a point to make a score, like to score each game, Astros game, including the playoffs. I tried to score the game one of that year's World Series 2017 of the World Series. They lost obviously, and so I got pissed off and I said, I'll just do them after the series period. But yeah, for the game seven one of the 2017 World Series, yeah, that I still have that like in pristine condition. I just don't want to have like anything stain it. I have it locked away in
Yeah.
a pretty safe, secluded area. But yeah, like 2017 was just a major moment for myself and yourself. I even remember crying in front of the TV and just not believing that it actually happened to a fan base such as us. Because it's the Astros. We don't really get
Well,
any wins at all. Like we got a continual playoff disappointment 80, 86, the 90 late 90s, 2000s, and up until there. Yeah, it really was a really good moment, 2017, and stuff like that. And rewinding back to connecting that to Apollo and your work there, what do you feel is the most gratifying moment for you when it comes to being in that position, in particular?
yeah, I think it goes back to the community where we did after the 2021, we had that Arctic blast come in, and we had the snow, the grid fell, the pipes burst. Um, it was our third 24-hour stream, and we had raised money in the past on the stream and just donated to the Astros Foundation or Atlantic Colors Foundation, Bregman's Foundation. But this one in particular, when you see your community hurting outside of social media, but also in the Apollo world of community of people that I know where their pipes were bursting and their houses were flooding out. And I worked in that world of water restoration before in the past, and I know that it sucks. Like that equipment's not cheap. That process isn't cheap. It takes forever, and it's just your house literally bursting the pipes with the. It's not like a hurricane or anything. It's just happening within your house, and you can't stop it. And we did this 24-hour stream and we raised a ton of money, and we were able to donate that to people. We're like, hey, send us your bill, send us a picture of your bill, we'll pay whatever we can, we'll pay this bill off, we'll pay this bill. And we just did that, and we just kept that going, and we raised this a certain amount of money and to help these people that always backed us and always protected us and always consumed our content, be able to just be maybe a small drop in the bucket to help them out on one bill or whatever it is. That is the best thing we will ever do, and continue to do. And yeah, we can make videos and we can have podcasts and we can go viral on the internet and have these relationships with the athletes. But man, when I say there's people that I would drop everything to go fix their car because they've been with us, I'd do it, and I'd do it 100 times and not even tell anybody, because like they would do the same thing for me. And on a human level, that will be something that I always champion about Apollo and what we've been able to do.
Got a few more questions to ask before you wrap this up. You're looking at your Twitter slash X bio. You call yourself a disruptor. What makes you a disruptor?
Yeah, I think disruptor is just a thing of challenging the status quo. It goes back to the contrarian of zigging and zagging. I think legacy media and everything that's been great in Houston, to be able to jump in and disrupt that. And it started with a foothold with a T-shirt, and now it's been able to grow into all these accounts and all these other content creators. I think being a part of the new wave of new media and be able to do coverage of sports, I think is really cool. You don't need to open up the newspaper right anymore. You can be able to just tweet something out or create a video, whether it's gonna do one view or a million views. I don't care. Be able to put yourself out there. Is I think that's the disruption I talk about, and that's from anyone. It's not just for me. It's from Billy Bob Smith right down the road that's doing a YouTube tutorial on fixing a water heater, whatever it is. To throw yourself out there and do it, you're a disruptor. It's not this huge label. If you're doing something, you're putting yourself out there, you're a disruptor of that space, and that's what it means to me.
And given that you've been able to be at the current position you are right now with Apollo and being regarded as one of the top local Houston sports outlets, um, what do you view as your goal? What do you view as the next step for this whole thing to to grow further?
Yeah, I think always Houston will always be my baby and always be the headquarters and always be the focal point. I want to lock down the state. I want to do content throughout the state, or through the RGV, through San Antonio, through El Paso, up north to those South Oklahoma people, to West Texas, cover all the colleges, do all the content, and really lock down the state of Texas. I think we're everything we've done is not reinventing the wheel. Other people have done it. We'll be able to take some things and tweak it to the way we want to do it. But you look at Bucky's, you look at HEB, these brands Texas will rep, and they will rep hard, and they will brag to other states. And I just want to be able to create this team around us to really make Texas Texas. And by saying that and doing that, Houston will always be where I'll be. Houston will always be who I don't care if the Astros lose 150 something games this year and only win 10. I will still be there. That will always be my bread and butter. That will be always what I do. And to be able to see the growth of not only myself but the other team members, to have the trust of, and I talked about it earlier with the Summit guys, knowing Garrett, Brian Lima, who's killing it at 790, he's my right hand guy on the baseball side, to entrust them and be like, hey, go and do this, and they go and do it at 100 times better than I would ever do it. That's what fires me up too, because it works. Like putting your faith in someone, knowing that they're capable of doing it and seeing them do it, and man, that's what makes this thing so great.
Just to be an icon of the state. That's the goal. That's how I take it, right?
Yeah, I think just a continued voice. I don't think an icon. It's a continued voice of what this state is and what this makes the state so great, and the good times of it.
Right, right. Um, as going back to the Astros, this core, this golden age still continues even to as we head into 2024, which I still can't believe. How long do you feel that this world will last with the Astros?
I think the business side comes into play, right? We've seen superstars leave, we've seen Springer leave, we've seen Correa leave, we've seen those are the homegrown guys. We've seen Cole come and leave. We've seen all these different people. Verlander left and then came back, right? I think 2024 is, you can label it almost the last dance, right? Bregman's probably going to test free agency, and I don't know if we're going to pay him. Jose Altuve is a free agent. I could see him coming back. Obviously, he's the face of the franchise, but you're going to have a different look, and I think this chapter may end, but the new chapter that starts, those guys are going to win, because you have a Kyle Tucker, you have a Jordan, you have a Yonder Diaz, you have a bunch of other dudes that have stepped up over the past, and now kind of that next wave. And I think you saw it with like the Giants when they were winning. Every, was it odd year? I think it was odd or even year.
Even year. It was
Even
even year.
year. You had your Posey, right? You had your Bumgarner, but kind of parts around it were always changing. And so we've seen that, and that core that we've known and loved, I think that chapter ends, but a new one begins, and that window keeps going. So I think, especially with the new playoff, where it seems like a lot of teams get in, the window could keep going in 2026, 2027. It's just to be different faces. And I think Jose Altuve is going to stay, and he'll kind of be the Brady, where Brady was always there with the Patriots, even though all the other teams have changed around him. I think he'll always be there, but this last dance of this chapter may be ending, but a new one I think will pick right up and go. And I always thought it'd be funny that the Astros, like that 2019 team, right? I think we all agree that's one of the greatest baseball teams ever in the history of sport, and then not to win is crazy. But I was like, man, it'll be really funny if the second time the Astros win a World Series, it'd be like an 80-win team that like got in the playoffs and then got hot. Like it'd be like really ironic. So I think the Astros have one of those left in them where like an 84-win team gets in and then they just get hot for a month. I think, because anything in baseball can happen, right? And I think that's what makes the sport so great. I think a lot of people are penciling the Dodgers and Ohtani to win the next 10 World Series. I don't know. It's really tough to win in this sport, and anything happens in October, that we all know.
Yeah, of course, of course. And two more questions to ask. The first one, if you could take a time machine and you could tell anything about if you could take a time machine, you could tell yourself, your younger self, maybe like around 5 years ago, or right around the time you decided to start Apollo, and you could tell yourself one thing as to what exactly you will be expecting in the future and stuff like that. Um, what would that be and why?
Yeah, that's a good question. Don't feed the trolls. Uh, there's just takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of time out of you. Two is probably view time as an asset. Really early on, we were doing with it was during that period where we were jack of all trade, masters of none. We weren't viewing time as an asset. We do a project, we spend a lot of time and get 10 likes, get 20 views, and we're like, wow, we put a lot of time and effort into this. Um, and it probably wasn't the best allotment, right? Uh, and be able to shape and change our perspective on that, it's twofold because being in a community driven world where content is driven by community, you also have a pulse on what your community likes. If you're part of the Apple community but you're only posting about bananas, they're not going to click on that, right? Like you have to know what your community is going to like and engage, because if I'm putting all this time and I do a dissertation on bananas, what are we doing? You know what I mean? So I think viewing that as an asset and kind of having that wherewithal and feel was the biggest thing. And it took us a lot longer than I like to admit to figure that out. But once we did, it was just like, okay, let's really view time as an asset, and everything we do just be in that scope.
Mhm. Yeah, and I really do appreciate you taking this whole time just to talk to me about yourself, Apollo, and what it stands for, and your goals and your highlights. I really do appreciate it. Final question, just a simple one. You got any final shout outs to give? Any acknowledgments to give out? You know, people that were just as crucial to making this all happen as your contribution.
Yeah, I mean, everyone, Josh, Noah, Garrett, Brian, Stoney, Summit Burrows, Taylor, um, the Swaddle Bros, everyone in our group chat, a lot of people. I mean, it's not. It takes a village. It really does. I mean, there's so many people that do so many things in this company and wear so many different hats. And um, I think one of the big stories, Dex. Dex is a guy that came on to do basketball, and now he runs our pop culture and our social media stuff. Right? Like he came in just doing this one thing. He's like, hey, I don't really like doing basketball stuff. I'm really passionate about pop culture. Um, like things like that, and the team and everyone that's been able to just, whether it's buy a shirt, support us, tell someone about it, share a post, retweet, like whatever it's been, uh, doesn't go unnoticed. It's been huge. It keeps us going. It keeps me going, and man, it's been a heck of a ride. So I'll get all in tomorrow and be like, man, this was awesome.
And hopefully the ride continues. One in the same. Des, thank you so much for taking the time and doing this interview. I really appreciate it. And best of luck in the future.
Thank you, Pedro. Appreciate you, man.